I came to the BBC just by accident. I was trying to post a script at the Charing Cross night post office, and it was raining hard, and I was sheltering in the doorway, and the chap standing next to me started talking to me. He asked me, "Why don't you ever do television?" I said, "I know nothing about television." We arranged a meeting with me and the head of television drama, Michael Berry, and this resulted in a sort of guest producer's contract. The head of drama, Michael Berry, was in a sort of partnership with Val Gielgud, John Gielgud's brother, who also came from the theatre. The BBC television drama was in a very sad state, because there were very few original plays. It was always the dramatizing of famous classical novels or taken from a stage play. Nothing like television which I visualized.
I find great use in that screen.
I dare say you must, certainly. When you want to find anything in a hurry.
Aye, or if I want to hide anything in a hurry either.
Well, television was a completely new medium, and one tried to make the public watch it. Well, the drama department consisted of 6 producers and a script department. On the whole, I felt they really don't know yet how to make television. I felt I could give something to television which wasn't on the screen up to now. And the successes I had during the first year proved I was right. You see, everything was broadcast live during that time. So that's the difficulties that the artists, the actors, have to be absolutely precise, know their lines, know their positions, and the camera crew, it was beginning only 3 people, had to know exactly what to do. So one had on a long play, 3 weeks rehearsal, and 1.5 days with cameras in the studio. This is how it happened. The first play I made was called Error to the Heart, based on a German short novel about a German army priest talking through the night to a deserter who is going to be shot next morning. Error to the Heart was a success, which was repeated 4 years later. Dyson Hill was one of the contract scenarists of the BBC. He was also busy with drama. He wrote for me the screenplay of Wuthering Heights, for example. I told him of my interest for science fiction, because up till my joining, science fiction, drama and fantasy was mainly restricted to children's television. And he came and told me 3 subjects which he had in mind, all of which were telling the story of a scientist, Quatermass. The first was Quatermass' exploration of the void, of the great darkness that resulted in the Quatermass experiment. The second was about colonizing by a hostile planet on this Earth. It was Quatermass 2. And the third one was Quatermass and the Pit, which dealt with, long ago, a Martian missile came to the Earth and was buried in the ground by its impact and only came to light through a building site going up. This was the story of Quatermass. I chose one of them. The simplest seemed to be the Quatermass experiment, which I submitted to the BBC, and they accepted. And as they were booked with other productions, I had to go to the smallest studio, that is Alexandra Palace, not in Lime Grove yet, and made the Quatermass experiment there. Reginald Tate worked for me in my previous production. It is Midnight Dr. Schweitzer. He played the French general Lyautey, who had to arrest the famous Dr. Schweitzer when France declared war on Germany during the First World War. Through his experiences in television drama, I thought it would be right for Bernard Quatermass
Oh, you're both shepherds who won't believe there's a wolf. I'm the watchdog who barks. You try to keep me quiet. So much the worse for your sheep.
But surely between dog and sheep there is man. I have confidence in man.
The critics and the public were hungry for something which was not conventional, and the Nigel Neal scripts were as unconventional as possible.
One morning, 2 hours after dawn, the first manned rocket in the history of the world takes off from the Taruma Range, Australia. The 3 observers see on their scanning screens a quickly receding Earth. The rocket is guided from the ground by remote control as they rise through the ozone layer, the stratosphere, the ionosphere, beyond the air. They are to reach a height of 1,500 miles above the Earth and there learn what is to be learned.
We could not predict success because everything we did was absolutely new. The controller of television, Cecil McKibben, called me and said, "Do you want to make now 1984? I was the only one who knew the book because I was a subscriber of the Life magazine, and the Life magazine had serialized it. And I had read the story of Orwell's 1984 completely. So I got on with Nigel Neal, and together we were commissioned to do 1984. For the next year, he was given a whole year to write the script because it is not easy to write a script in 1984. That was in 1953, and the production was scheduled for 1954.
Had you read the book? Were you familiar with most of Orwell's
Oh,
work?
no, not all of Orwell, but I knew this book very well. And I was very keen to do it. It wasn't just a challenge, it was a dare. It was biting off quite a lot at that time.
This, in 1984, is London, chief city of Airstrip 1, a province of the state of Oceania.
Nothing inspired me except seeing Peter Cushing. He did a good performance in the Russian play Anastasia, where he played a Russian nobleman. And when 1984 was offered to him, he accepted immediately because he saw himself as the representative of the British public.
Your technical fault has been put right?
Yes, I'm able to go on now.
In his broadcast speech last night, Big Brother referred in confident terms to the probability of a full-scale Eurasian offensive early next month. There is now no possible doubt, he said, that it will take place in North Africa. Other fronts are expected to remain quiet. An extraordinary error.
The speech was evidently misreported.
Grossly misreported, since the offensive, in fact, came in India.
South India, 3 days ago.
Exactly. Such a careless report must not exist.
On the first transmission on a Sunday, we had an enormous audience, with all the critics shouting at me. There was such an outrage after the cruelties of the first transmission.
When the play was scheduled, we knew we would have some sort of reaction, but as it was the usual Sunday play, and at that time the audience were used to strong stuff, to a big, strong play on a Sunday, we expected some sort of reaction, but what happened the next day was beyond our expectations. In every pub, in underground buses, in clubs, there was only one topic, 1984, and the red.
The BBC thought we must abandon the second transmission, but the controller, Cecil McKibben, insisted it must go on, in particular that he heard that during the dinner of the Royal Television Society, Prince Philip said he cannot understand why there are fusses about. He and the Queen watched it and enjoyed it. We felt it wasn't a shocking play, it was a morality play. And the objections we had from various quarters was only because people felt it was about a fascist government or Stalinist government. So I had many phone calls, people threatening me to do me in. So for the second transmission, which always on a Thursday, I had 2 bodyguards, 2 tough people following me everywhere, but nothing happened. They were only idle threats. We thought the Thursday transmission will be even a bigger audience. Nothing of the sort happens. We had only a fraction of viewers because the people who wanted to see it watched the first transmission. After 1984, everybody wanted to have a television set. Quatermass was a progression. The first Quatermass was the professor exploring the void. 3 people going out, only 1 came back, and he's afflicted by a terrible illness. The second goes one step further, that a hostile planet is trying to establish colonies on the Earth. In Quatermass too, we had a very interesting adventure. Our favorite actor, Reginald Tate, had died in the meantime. So one had to find somebody else to take his place. And the person was John Robinson, who worked for me also in various other parts. I was the first producer directing extensive outdoor scenes for BBC television. And in Quatermass #2, we had whole sequences shot in the Shell refinery in the Thames estuary. There was no question of noise because the whole process there is completely silent. The question was the weather. We had to wait for 1 ray of sunshine to come down and illuminate our favorite actor who died in the attempt to dislodge the alien force. With a little thought and ingenuity and help from the designer, there is no problem shooting space scenes for television drama. No one in the public knew how the end would be. And all the newspaper hacks tried to find out, to impress their public, that they know the end. So one day a girl wrote and said, I am applying to go to a convent in Ireland, she's a Roman Catholic, and there will be no television, and I will not know how the Quatermass #2 ends. Can you tell me how it is? So nicely, we thought this is a hack writing to us, this is an assumed thing. But in the end, the Christian virtues impressed him sufficient that he wrote down in a short sentence the outline of the ending, and that is fine. That poor young lady applying to be a nun in Ireland. The storm warning was not intended, and I disliked the idea very much because it had the opposite effect. Because now everybody wanted to watch. There was no reason for it. It was not all that gruesome. The story of the creature is a very interesting one because it's based on half-truths. A famous English mountaineer, Eric Shipton, penetrated in a very secluded Nanda Devi sanctuary, which is a glacier surrounded by mountains, and saw the footprints of a creature which was not an animal and not a human being either. So he photographed it and told his companions about it. And his companions found some more footprints of the same creature. This is the origin of Nijling's idea that 3 people are setting out to find the creature. One is a circus manager, and one's the creature for a circus. One is a real scientist, and one is a mountaineer. These were played by Peter Cushing, Simon Leck, and the fat man whose name I've forgotten it. We went out to the nearest Himalaya, which is the Bernese Oberland. I organized a small expedition and had a contact man in London. My stage manager supplied us with all the things we needed, and we shot all the exterior scenes in the Bernese Oberland around the Jungfrau Hotel. The most interesting thing is that we needed magnesium flares for night shot of the expedition. And the British Airways, whatever they called them, British European Airways, said, you cannot transport flares in our aircraft because it's too much dangerous. And we said, a long heated discussion with me on one phone and the British Airways on the other phone. Then came one of the guides we had engaged to help us with the shooting, came up and said, do you want magnesium flares? I said, yes. Well, there is a factory just down below the railway. So the next thing, the train came up the Jungfrau railway with our flares. And another small incident concerns Peter Cushing, who is a very ardent landscape painter. And whenever we had a moment to spare, he went out with his easel and painted the landscape. And one night in a terrible fog, we had lost him. We had to wait until the fog lifted until we discovered Peter Cushing in the middle of the glacier painting the landscape. In the script, our three explorers, so the creatures definitely have no language or writing. He said, yes, there is some writing on that rock. And there was some Tibetan writing on that rock. And we copied it out. We had to copy it and painted it with stencils on that rock. And then after the transmission, some chap Rangelson says, you cannot understand Tibetan, I can understand Tibetan. This is the usual thing Tibetans write on the rocks. This is not done by the creatures, this is done by normal Tibetan people. And the contents is Mani Padme Hum means is a sacred religious formula which the Tibetans paint everywhere for their protection. Nigel Leeds' intention in writing the creature was to explore the unknown world which still might exist in the Himalayan fastnesses. The opening part of the play takes place in the Tibetan monastery where the thing is discussed, the religious connections of the creatures. The old actor who played the abbot had only to do in the first and in the last scene. So when his first scene was over, he left the studio and went into the projection room and watched the rest of the play on the projection. When it was time to go back to his place, he suddenly found he couldn't get back because we had the enormously long Tibetan trumpets across the courtyard, and he couldn't face it. So I said immediately to the stage manager, remove the trumpets, remove the trumpets. And so suddenly when one saw on the preview the trumpets moved, and the abbot rushed up to his balcony and was ready to make his final speech. For the third Quatermass and the Pit, we had to find another one because John Robinson died suddenly. It proved that before the hostile planet tried to establish colonies on this Earth, another planet, Mars, had already sent out a spaceship which crashed on the Earth and was buried under the ground after the crash. And the crew of that Martian spaceship turned out to be nothing like human beings. They were like spiders, proving that we are not the only one looking scientifically at the events. Another planet had thought of it before. It was meant to be the final serial. There was never an idea, not even in Nigel Neal's mind, to make a fourth serial. Although he made years later, and one evening, one-off play on the aging Quatermass, who was played by John Mills. Everything took place in London, so that the public can be familiar with the characters and the surroundings, and suddenly terrible things are happening in familiar surroundings. So the reaction each time for Experiment, Quatermass 2, and The Pit were absolutely marvelous. The public was so enthralled by its suspense that before the last episode was broadcast, we had a call from the telephone exchange Clissold, which was, before all the numbers came in, Clissold exchange was the most busy telephone exchange in North London. And the manager has told us during the last hour we had not one single telephone call. Everybody is watching the television screen. In '56, I was approached by the music department as I had seen my use of music in drama productions, whether I would like to produce an opera. I said yes. I always wanted to do Turandot by Puccini because it's very spectacular. They said no, we want you to do The Saint of Bleecker Street by Menotti, which I did in '56 with considerable success, which was followed by Salome, which was connected with a lot of trouble because the tenor we had engaged to play Herod suddenly discovered the music is too difficult for him to learn, and we lost the Herod, the main male character in the opera Salome, overnight. But our Salome knew of a chap in Germany who was available and capable of starting with us on the next day. So we telephoned him, and we are waiting at the Heathrow airport all night, but he would arrive. Thank God he came, so he joined our rehearsals, but he couldn't sing the part in English. He learned only the cue words, that he could answer anything sung in English in German, which makes very little difference in an opera. Afterwards, I did Carmen and Tobias and the Angel by Sir Arthur Bliss. The Tale of Two Cities, I think, was remarkable because of the joining up of filmed scenes with real scenes. And even the critics didn't notice the joint, the gap between filmed scenes and real scenes. And of course, for the last words, we have it's a far, far better thing I've ever done before. We had for the first time the camera on the crane going up. That we don't see him going up to the scaffolding, we see the camera going. And we hear only his words. I have no favorite plays, but I prefer good ones. And the good ones are very rare. The BBC television drama department submitted sometimes a dozen subjects to me, and I found one or none among a dozen. My drama production came through the BBC scenario department. Sometimes they were right, sometimes they were wrong. When I did a production of Sacrifice to the Wind, which played in ancient Greece, classical Greece, and I thought, oh God, again the classical Greece, but I was wrong. It was a very successful play. Sean Connery played for me in Terence Rattigan's adventure story, Alexander the Great. He was magnificent.
The truth is, I am not as invincible as I believed. You've won. I admit defeat, and I would like to salute my conqueror. Sit down. No, up here.
Clear blue. And he played in Anna Karenina, Count Vronsky opposite. In the Daily Express, the readers were asked, who do you want to see as James Bond? It was the first James Bond. And they all voted because they had seen Sean Connery as Alexander and Vronsky, Sean Connery. And this set him off on his marvelous career. So are we ready to...
Yes,
Sure.
yes, it's all.
Okay, speak.
Action.
Pen. Text. Fade out. I think the last shot is a good one.